Let's get started. My name is Roy Kirchner, and we are doing a session of secrets for success in 2025. A little bit of background on me is I'm a serial entrepreneur. Out of Tampa, Florida. Privilege of owning several companies. And looking forward to speaking with you guys today. I'm going to push it over to John.
Hey, so I am in today, sunny Columbus, Ohio. Not very warm, but sunny anyways. We'll take that. Entrepreneur, not serial yet, but entrepreneur. Had the privilege of doing multiple things. I love to do public speaking, business coaching, workshop facilitation. The thing I'm most passionate about is helping entrepreneurial, growth-minded businesses, 100 employees or less, achieve their growth goals. That's what I'm most fired up about to accomplish even more of in 2025. And I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
I'm Spencer Beaudreault. I'm also an entrepreneur and co-founder and partner with the Flying Goat Agency based in Tampa, Florida. I'm a marketing expert, and Flying Goat Agency is a marketing agency that is growing pretty quickly. And I'm excited to get to the topics.
Yeah, so I think our first topic for today is authenticity. Being real. I think that's one of the most important things and I kind of got started young with mine. So it was kind of my father, believe it or not. He had said to me, you carry my last name, and please understand that if somebody looks at you in a negative way with your name, then it's really, you're destroying your last name and you're destroying who you are as a person. So do you want that? Because we all know, the number one thing that we want to know is, like, literally when we're not in the room, what is somebody saying about us? I think that's the most important thing to understand, that if you hold yourself to core values and a certain standard, and you have integrity, moral values, honor, respect, and please understand, in my life, it took a long time. I mean, my father said that to me at 15 years old, and I didn't understand what that meant. But as you grow and get older, you start understanding what those things really mean, and they become this part of you that you really want to be part of you. You want to have where you want, if anybody says your name, regardless if you're in the room or not, they hold you at this standard. And I think it's amazing if you can be real in this day and age, like just a real person. I mean, there's so many people that I feel sometimes that I meet that are fake. And it's so different when you meet real people that you connect with, because there's nothing better than that. I think that the secret to being able to do that is just understanding that we're all different, right? We're all different. We're all come from all walks of life, and it doesn't matter where you come from or who you are. The beautiful thing is you can be anything you want to be. It really comes down to, like, literally just being real. I mean, it's that way, and I know it's hard for some people, right? I know it's hard for people to be able to talk and speak and be able to get a message across. And what I would tell those people is, I know people talk about this, right? But let's give you some answers of how you can get, your message across. And we said it last session, but I can tell you it's very, very, very inexpensive. You can go every single week to this thing called Toastmasters, and they teach you how to, like, speak with even just a few people in the room, let alone a gigantic audience. They teach you how to get your message across, and it's a safe environment. It's a great place to go. Some of the other ways is mentors and coaches, whether you're paying them or you just find a mentor that really that is that has been successful in life, that really wants to see you succeed in those ways. So I always want to express that, but I'm gonna push it over to John and let him talk a little bit about this topic.
Yeah, I'm in my vehicle, as you can see. I'm at a leadership conference, and I stepped out so I could have a quiet space to be a part of this conversation. Authenticity is so important. Tony Robbins said it's the golden ticket now, and I think Tony knows a thing or two about what's effective in impacting and influencing others. He said authenticity is the golden ticket now, and I see where that's played out in a couple different ways. One is when people meet you, say, virtually, and then they get to meet you in person. If you're the same person on the Zoom or on the Teams or on the Riverside in this case, and then they meet you in person and you're the same, that's authentic. That matches up. I've also had the experience as a public speaker where the person just rocked it on the stage, and then they get off the stage and they were so engaging and enthusiastic and animated on the stage, and then off stage they're somewhat aloof and cold and not really accessible. That's someone who's really skilled at speaking, but it comes across as inauthentic. Really good at delivering something that's inspiring and motivating, but then not really able to connect. I think that's where you mentioned this, Roy, and I think that's the key to authenticity, is that if you want to connect with others, then you've got to be yourself, and that requires you being comfortable with yourself. Not the excuse that I've heard from some of, like, hey, that's just the way I am. Like that. No, that usually, my experience has been, you can correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but usually when they say that, it's not a good thing. It's usually because there's something abrasive about their personality. It's like, well, that's just the way I am. I've never heard somebody that when they get a compliment for being so authentic and so genuine, so caring for others, and they say, oh, that's just the way I am. It's rare. It's usually an excuse. So if you want to really connect and impact and influence others, then you've got to be comfortable with yourself in a way that is authentic with yourself and with others, that genuinely cares about others. I think one of the ways that I have found that I can express authentic concern for others is in the questions that I ask. If I ask really well-worded questions of people, and if I'm going into an appointment, it's the first time when I've spoken with this person, I take just a few minutes and I take a dive into their LinkedIn profile. I love LinkedIn, and if it's a professional engagement, I really want to learn about that person so that when we open the conversation, it's not like, hey, how's the weather? What sports team do you like? I ask them a question. I noticed that you have been connected with this nonprofit for 5 years. What got you started in that journey with them? That's a whole different level question than, hey, how's it hanging? It shows that you actually took a little bit of time to learn about them. It shows you authentically care because you took a little bit of extra effort to learn more about them. So those are some of the ways that I've found that I can communicate authentic interest in them, authentic curiosity. And people are craving it. As AI and technology advances more and more, the desire for authentic communication and conversations and connections increases all that more. So I think that authenticity is a tremendously important thing, regardless of where you are. Don't feel like you've got to be farther ahead than you are. Everybody feels like that. Don't feel like you've got to build yourself up into something that you're not. Be yourself. But more importantly, be more about others than yourself. And I think you'll find that that will be an attractive quality, because last I'll say this and pass it over to Spencer. If you are a genuinely authentic person who cares about others and is genuinely curious about others, you're also going to attract more of that into your life. So being authentic is going to resonate and attract people who are also authentic. Often the people who are shallow or not really being themselves kind of attract more of the same. So if you want to be around authentic people, start with yourself. Those are some tips that I've used to be more authentic as I've found ways to communicate to others that I care about them. Spencer, what's been your experience with authenticity?
Yeah, I think authenticity ties somewhat into vulnerability. right?
Yep.
Being vulnerable and showing like your true colors and, showing your true emotions and all of that. And I read, probably like 5 years ago, I read the book, The Power of Vulnerability by Brene Brown. It's an
Oh, good
amazing
author.
book. And I'm very big, so I got my degree originally in criminology, never used it, but I studied a ton of psychology, and that's what I'm very passionate about, like psychology, how the brain works and all of that, and I grabbed a lot of really good nuggets from this specific book, The Power of Vulnerability, and basically the premise of the book is be vulnerable because you're going to be successful because of that, right? You're going to open up your true self. People are going to, even like within relationships, right? Like people are going to understand your true emotions, and there's not like this brick wall that you have up, and this barrier where people or yourself has to get over that. So I think being vulnerable is a very big piece to authenticity, and to kind of steer it towards more of like a specific topic within authenticity. I think in terms of people creating content, with what they do for their businesses or their life, like social media and content creation is such a big piece to our society nowadays. And I think there's so many people out there creating content that are inauthentic, right? They're trying to create something and be something that they're not, and it shows on camera, right? Like we're social human beings. Like we can feed off of people's energy and feed off of people's words and their vibe and all of that, right? So you can really like sniff out when somebody's being inauthentic and when somebody's being authentic. So I think with authenticity, it's very important to show that with the content that you're putting out, right? Like, are you truly passionate about the content that you're speaking on, right? Like, is it something that you're truly interested in, or are you just doing it because you saw some other big shot do it and now you're trying to recreate it, right? And I think it really takes a lot of at bats. I think it's practice with even being authentic, right? You got to really in terms of like tying into social media and content creation, you have to really practice that, right? Practice being your true self on camera, because it's not easy to be on camera, right? Like I know, like when if I'm doing like a video shoot and we're doing some type of like commercial or ad that we're creating, and I have to sit there and stand and look at a script and do all this, I don't feel like I'm kind of truly being myself. It seems almost like robotic in a sense. But if you get me like in a setting like what we're doing now, right? We're kind of just spitting off the cuff, and it's questions and answers and dialogue, and we're having like a real true conversation. I feel like my most authentic self. So I think it's very important to keep that in mind when you're creating content, is be vulnerable, be authentic, and keep practicing, because that more of that authenticity is going to come out as you continue to take at bats.
Yeah, Spencer, I mean, you said it right. I mean, the other thing that people have to realize is there's going to be a day of reckoning in this country of when you're creating content online and who you are. When people actually start meeting you, you better be the exact same person, right? Because that is there's so much fakeness right now in social media and different things like that. And at some point in time, they're going to, I just see it, they're going to fix it, or people are going to start saying, like, this guy's not who he is online. So being real is something you must do, right? And I say must do because I want to see everybody become success, right? And if you're not real, and if you are not telling people who you really are and being vulnerable, I mean, you just said it, Spencer, being that way, you're opening yourself up for people to get to know you, right? And that's the number one key, is for people to get to know you, because you want to surround yourself with people that are bigger, stronger, better, more successful than you. And trust me, if they don't see that you're real, they're not going to help you, right? They're
And
not going to feed
not
into
everybody's for you. not everybody's for you. You know, sorry to cut you off, Roy, but I just like wanted to like piggyback off that. Like, not everybody's for you, and I feel like in our society, so many people are trying to just be liked by everybody. Like, our country's divided as it is, right? Like 50% Democrats, 50%, Republicans. Like, no, not everybody's gonna like you, not everybody's gonna agree with you, and I feel like a lot of insecurities show with people, in content creation, like in business, is they're trying to get everybody to like them, and really what you have to do is like you have to be your authentic self and learn who your audience is, like learn who your people are, and continue to speak to your people and build that like community for yourself, online with your business, like whatever you're doing in life. And I think that that's a big piece. Like, not everyone will like you. Be your authentic self, and your vibe will find your tribe. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you said it right. I mean, going into that is like mentorship. If I'm mentoring somebody that's younger, they're like, man, I don't have a lot of speaking points like you do. I haven't been a lot of places. I don't have like a lot of exciting stories. And you have to remember, people love to talk about themselves in this world. So when you're younger, it's okay to ask people a ton of questions and find some type of relatability with that. Like, find something, because they're going to mention something that snowboarding, jet skiing, dirt biking, hiking, fitness. They're gonna say something that you actually do know about, that interests you, in asking somebody questions. So just remember, like, if you're going to try when you're younger, right, and you're trying to find people that are successful and people that could possibly become your friend, mentor you, give you advice, a lot of it is just asking them a question after question after question. Just have that loaded up in your head when you go out to meet people, networking, or just have it loaded in your head all the time, right? Because you never know when you're going to meet somebody. You can meet somebody anytime, but then just let them keep on speaking about certain topics, and then when a topic comes up that you actually know stuff about, or that interests you tremendously, then that's when you interject, right? You interject, and then wow, that magic happens, because you're talking about something that they're excited about, and just as much, stuff about it just like they do. And that's really where you want it, right? And also you're getting the opportunity by asking somebody questions. You're getting the opportunity to learn about that person. And I'm saying this in some couple ways, right? You're getting the opportunity to learn about people, but you're really getting the opportunity to say, is this person, and I'm just being honest, are they full of shit? Like, do I feel like they're full of shit? Like, are they real? Because you don't want to be around people that are not real. That's the most important thing, right? So a lot of it is letting people empty their glass when you first meet them, letting them talk, letting them empty their glass, and see what the person's personality is like, see if it fits with yours. But I'm literally always doing that. Like, you got to understand, I'm successful, but I want to be, you always want to be more successful, right? You always want to meet more people, and some people aren't. And that's where I say, like, if you're shy, to break out of that, you may need some help, right? And that's the most important thing, is realizing, right? We're talking about it right now, realizing what your faults are, right? Realizing what those things are. And some of those ways to realize what your faults are, I'm just being honest with you, is take yourself a personality test, right? Take a personality test. Go online and take an actual personality test and figure out what your faults are, and then you can work on those faults, right? Because I'm just telling you, I want you to be real. Like, I want everybody to be real, because the power of being real can gain so many friends and gain so many connections and can gain so much, right? Because we know, like, that's what it comes down to. But John, I'm going to kick it over to you, my friend, or Spencer.
Roy, real quick, John, and then I'll.
Go ahead, Spencer. We'll go around the other way. You go ahead.
Roy, do you have like a specific? So you had mentioned like a personality test to help people kind of figure out like maybe more on a deeper level like who they are, right? That helps with authenticity. Do you have like a specific personality test that you've taken or that you recommend to anybody, like off the top of your head?
I 100% do. I don't know it right now, but I can put it in the notes at the bottom. Like I'll pull it up
Perfect.
because
I got
I
one.
have
Yeah,
taken one.
yeah. So have I, and because
Yeah,
like a light bulb went off right when you said it,
yeah,
dude. I'm looking at it. I just kind of searched it really quick. It's the
yeah.
Myers-Briggs. The
Okay.
Myers-Briggs test
Yep.
is the one that I've taken. It's been a minute, so I don't want to sit here and talk like I'm an expert on the specific test, but I've taken it before off of somebody else's recommendation. And I remember it being very insightful and something that just gives you a deeper understanding of yourself and maybe like has you thinking about certain things about your personality that you don't necessarily think about, every day, right? Like, you may think you're a really, crazy introvert and you're really not. Like, you just need to dig into yourself a little more. And maybe there's just like certain things that, when you learn about yourself, you're able to kind of like overcome those certain things. So I just wanted to get a little more granular on the personality test and kind of mention that. But John, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, have been a few that I've taken, a couple in the last couple of years. One was fascinating for me. It's called Working Genius, and I liked it so much that I got certified in it to present it. 'Cause it identifies how people work on a team, meaning that it's not about a personality, but it's more about productivity. How do you work together and optimize your strengths on a team to move a project as smoothly as possible from start to across the finish line? And I enjoyed that so much because it just pegged how I work. It nailed how I work. And then it also helped me identify, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, who do I need to delegate to? What tasks, even if I can do them, even if I'm good at them, if I had to do that over and over again, would that end up draining my energy? Would that be the best, highest and best use of my skills and abilities and what gives me energy in the workplace? And so I found that to be very insightful. And I think that's also sometimes we can think that friction within the workplace is a personality thing where it might just be a working style thing. And that was also insightful for me to realize that. I think that's the one aspect of authenticity is you can better understand yourself and others around you then because you work so closely, hopefully in a small organization, you're more of a name and less of a number. Part of authenticity is being your authentic self as you're working with others and not trying to figure out what do I need to be around this person and who do I need to be around that person. If you know what your strengths are and you know what the things are that you can't stand doing and you identify people that are really skilled at that, it makes for a very complementary mutual working relationship. That's one aspect of authenticity I greatly appreciated and have seen it have impact as I presented it to companies. So that's one aspect of authenticity that I would say is the Working Genius is an excellent tool for teams. Um, I've done some of the other personality tests. Colby is one that's been recommended a couple times that I haven't taken yet. And it sounds like a numerical value to how you process information or make decisions. So that's another one that I'm interested in looking into. So I think the biggest part about authenticity in this is no matter what tool you choose, it's really most important that you be self-aware and honest with yourself. If you've got people in your life that you trust, ask them, what do you see as my strengths? What do you see as something I could work on to improve? That's that measure of vulnerability you talked about, Spencer, where if you're asking those questions because you genuinely want to know, you genuinely want to improve those areas that I could use some improvement, everybody could, or what am I really skilled at? Maybe there's things in your life you don't know, you don't recognize because it's everyday to you, and they say, well, here's a couple of things you're really skilled at. I think it gives you opportunity for feedback for areas of improvement and could be some areas of encouragement of some strengths you have that you might not have been aware of. So those are a few things I would think of about authenticity in connection with how we work and kind of who we are, how we're wired.
Yeah, I mean, and I highly, highly, highly recommend everybody read The Power of Vulnerability by Brene Brown. It was an amazing book. It's one of my top five books, in my opinion. It really helps give you a deeper outlook on why that's so important. But another thing too, like I think like, being authentic and authenticity, it really helps your mental health. Like if you're not putting on this costume or like, trying to be this movie character and this whole person that you're not, right? And you're being your true self, like me personally, it really helps the mental. Like I don't want to lie to people. I don't want to be fake. Like I want to be my genuine, authentic self, keep it real, tell exactly how I'm feeling, say exactly, what I'm thinking, and not having so much of a filter. And I think, a lot of times, because, and social media is great, but it's also, a struggle for some people as well, because, they see all of these other people, pumping out this content and being like these, actors on social media, and they feel like they need to be like that, and they're running away from like their true selves. And so, but social media is awesome as well, because it allows you to put out your authentic self. So I think,
Yeah.
keep in mind that like, being authentic is going to help you like all the way around. And I think, one of the big things is with your mental health.
Like, can you imagine just lies and lies and lies coming out of your mouth? I mean, when you're making up something, how do you stay with it, right?
Yeah,
How do you,
feel
how
it,
do
right?
you, it's going to mess with you. It's going to mess with you mentally, So, I mean, and the key to being successful is just being 100% honest. I mean, if you want to be a leader, right? And there's so many different aspects of being a leader, but I'm just saying a leader of, even people at work. If you want to be the guy that they pick to talk about stuff, if you want to run a business, if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to have, team members, employees, all these types of things, not only, and this is going towards, that being a CEO of a company, you have to not only have that, be real, but then you have to learn how to become a storyteller, right? In a storyteller of leadership, of growth, of being vulnerable, and how you came over all these obstacles, right? Because that is how you get people to look up to you. They look up to you because of your capability of storytelling and being known that, it's okay. It's okay. That's what I want people to understand. It is so okay to be different and be yourself and fail and have hard times, because it makes you stronger. Like, that is one of the most important things that I think any of us here that are on this, that is up on this panel right here that we're talking about, we've all failed. We've all had hard times. You're not going to get and be successful without failures, and learn from your failures, right? And know that hindsight is 20/20. You can look in the past and you can see everything clearly, right? But you can't see the future. So you can, if you're not being authentic, right? If you're not being real right now, know that you can change and become that person. That's what's great is you can become that, and that's what we want to see you do. That's why we're doing these things. But let me push it over to you guys. I don't know if we want to stay on this topic, guys. We're at about 30 minutes. It doesn't make a difference to me, but I'll push it over to Spencer since you're next.
Yeah, I mean, like, one last thing, I guess, on authenticity is it just, it builds trust with people. I mean,
Yeah.
Roy, you guys touched on it too. Like, it builds trust with people. The more authentic you are, the more people are going to trust you, and then the stronger your relationships are, right? And it helps full circle. And it's a domino effect, right? And it's a domino effect to a point where like you might not even realize. So, it's definitely something very important that everybody, listening in or, taking anything from us, like you should really, build that into more of your routine and your life. Do we want to kind of go into our other topic that we or topics that we decided on?
Yeah, I
We
got
can go.
two things real quick. One
Yep.
is for people who are joining, if you're on LinkedIn Live and you've got a question about authenticity, throw it in the chat there because we're going to answer questions. We're saving time on the back end. So if you've got something you want to share with us or a question to ask, throw it in there so that we can make sure we address that. We'd love to hear from the people viewing to make sure. I'm going to give a story to wrap up, and then I'll kick it over to Roy to fire off the next topic. But I have a story that proves this about authenticity. When you're putting out content, and it seems like, boy, it really doesn't seem to be resonating with that many people. Like I have a lot of engagements, a number that LinkedIn tracks, but I don't really see that many comments or likes or. Is this resonating with anybody? I've had this happen more than once. I go to some event. I'll give you a specific example. I went to Orlando, Florida for a national conference, over 1,500 people there. The Sunday evening, we're all broken out into tables of 10. So I'm at a table of 9 other people. I know one other guy at the table, and I don't know the other 8. Directly across from me is a young man, awesome smile, just high energy, young man, very intelligent. He gets up, and he walks around. He says, "Are you John Hanson?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Well, I wanted to thank you for your content. Please keep making it." And then he hugged me. I've never seen this person before in my life. This is a company of over 10,000 employees globally. He had never liked, commented. I didn't even know who this person was. When you are putting out authentic content and then people meet you in person, you could elicit that kind of response. Why? Because it was authentic. And don't be so concerned about the vanity metrics. Be concerned about, does this reflect genuinely who I am? And then give it time. Just be consistent. You never know. You really never know who is regularly engaging with your content, but never making a like or a comment that really appreciates how authentic your content is. So if you are creating content, keep being consistent with it. Be authentic with it. There are people who regularly follow it and are grateful whether you know it or not. So that's what I'd say.
John, I love that, man. That drives people like me crazy because being a marketing agency, right?
Right?
We're looking at analytics and data, you know, the likes and the impressions and the engagement, right? Because it gives us, you know, even like in terms of like an ad campaign, right? Like it gives us indicators of like what content is really hitting hard. But you're 1,000,000% right. There's so many people that scroll past content and love your content, but they don't double tap, they don't like, they don't engage, they don't comment, they don't do they don't share, they just, you know, digest it. So I love that, and you're 1,000,000% right. It drives people like me crazy.
Understandably, and the ones creating are like, is this resonating with anybody? It doesn't seem to be really moving the needle. Yeah.
So maybe a message to everybody, like, hey, if you're seeing some content, show some love. Like, go, like, double tap. Use your thumb, show some love. At least acknowledge something, because it helps, right? Especially if you really appreciate that content. You know, show a little love.
I do. Yep. I do that too. Yep. So, Roy, what of the list of topics we had, what one do you want to kick off in the next 15, 20 minutes, save some time for Q&A on the back end?
Yeah, no, I'll let Spencer pick the next one. I'm going to let you go. So.
Spencer's pick.
There you go. I kicked it over to him.
Yeah, man. So it's just something that I'm going through right now, and I like, you know, kind of recent event type stuff because it's fresh on the mind. It's you know, something that I'm passionate and, you know, building, you know, my agency and my business is it's very hard to a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, right? They're comfortable with operating with like just themselves or maybe like one other person. And they kind of build up the business and whatever their service is or you know, whatever it is, they build it up to a certain point. And then there's that certain point where like you can only do so much. Like you're capped. Yeah. You're capped right here with just yourself. So then where do you go from here, right? Like, and the answer is, you know, based on all of the successful people out there chiming in and giving their, you know, their 2 cents, it's being able to hire the right people and delegate, you know, the right tasks. So, you know, that's the topic that I wanted to bring up and kind of talk with you guys, you know, and your experiences. How do you effectively hire the right people? And at what frequency, at what pace, how do you figure out like how to delegate the right tasks? So like me personally, right, I was, with our agency, I'm like, wow, we're scaling pretty quickly. I'm doing a lot of the heavy lifting. We're delegating the tasks among the partners. But who's the first person that we hire? Like, I don't even know what the hell I'm going to have them do, So like, over time, I have to like kind of figure out like, man, wow, all right, like this is holding me up right here. And if I pass this job off, I can go over here and bring in more revenue. Right. So that's kind of where I started to, kind of systemize this in my head. And then, what I ended up doing was hiring a marketing manager. I knew we were falling short because we're delivering on so many other clients. We're falling short on our own social media, our own content, right? So like, let's bring somebody in that, is good and feels comfortable with that side of things. Let's let them man that ship, obviously with our feedback and our oversight. And then maybe that, elements of that can trickle into some of the clients that we have. Right, and they kind of stay in this lane where they're focused on like one area and not like all over the place like an entrepreneur is, right? Like you're over here doing the finances, and then you're over here doing the actual client deliverables, and then you're over here doing sales, and you're doing marketing, and you're wearing all these hats to where it's very hard to take a step back and look at the entire picture and like systemize it. And I think, I feel like a lot of people go through this same problem, and this is the one problem. Like if you solve, like if you're able to generate money and you're doing successfully like just with you, but you're able to get over that hump of like hiring the right people and delegating the right tasks, that's how you scale. And this is where I get really passionate about it, and I know you guys are going to have some really good nuggets. So I'll pass it off to either of you, whoever wants to chime in next.
Well, Roy certainly has far more experience when it comes to hiring than I do, because I'm still a solopreneur with this launch. So I would love to kick it to Roy first of what are some best practices you've encountered with both hiring and delegation? Because, man, you grew super fast. What did you learn about that?
Yeah, so I mean, one thing is really 100% processes, right? Creating when you're by yourself. I mean, it's it's like hindsight's 2020. You look in the past and you see everything. One of the biggest things is documentation, right? Like trying to document everything you're doing and putting it down so that it can be repeated. One of the really biggest things that work to help you a lot with that is called Trainual. It's Trainual.com. Cool. And it's a great tool to get for that. And listen, I'm telling you straightforward, like I didn't have it, so I just made mistakes. So I learned from my mistakes. So the second time around, you don't, right? You don't make these mistakes. So please understand, I've made so many times I've made mistakes and I've hired the wrong people, and I've not created the right policies, procedures, manuals. You don't get to being a serial entrepreneur without total, true, massive mistakes in everything you do. But I would say, it's literally looking at what you're doing, and then when you're feeling overwhelmed, I think the biggest thing that you have to look at, and some of this is risk, right? With being an entrepreneur, is knowing that the business will come in. I do need to hire the person because, right, like some of it is how do I know that we have enough money to pay them? But I have to have them in order to do it. So that's there. That's one part of it. Hiring, wow, the things I've learned with hiring is it comes down to the hiring process. I definitely now would say get somebody's resume, but have them a list of questions, probably 20 questions, and then I would make them answer those questions without me, like just on a video, like literally empty their glass of those 20 questions. I want to see that first. I would do multiple interviews. I definitely would 100% have multiple people doing an interview, not just me, somebody else.
Yeah.
I would do interviews in a work environment, and then I would do it in a social environment, okay? Because people act tremendously different in a work environment than a social, especially if they're going to be part of a leadership team, like it's a higher level person, right? If it's lower level, you may not be able to spend as much time, like putting the time in to hire this person. But but as you'll learn, right? As you'll learn, every single person needs to be hired the same way. So you need to put just as much time into somebody that's lower level, because the worst thing is hiring the wrong person. It costs you so dearly of money. And that's what people just don't get. And that's what, entrepreneurs and CEOs don't get, is you don't want to hire the wrong person. And as soon as you figure out, trust me, you can't change somebody. That's another thing. You can't change them. So if they're not working at the beginning, do not spend time, keep on trying to get them to be something they're not. If they don't have it, man, you need to identify that and let them go, because it's going to cost you so, and I'm saying it this way, so much more money, right? And so much more time and so much more frustration. So, but I literally say, we talked about it in this last part of this, is I definitely would do work personality tests, make sure that they're good with working as a team. They're good with being under pressure. But a lot of when you're hiring somebody is really, you can train some skills that somebody's going to need is their culture. Do they buy into the vision of the head of the company? Do they buy into the vision of the company, right? And that's what people really need to start doing in their company if they want to scale, is they have to have core values. They have to. And then you hire on those core values, you fire on those core values. Everything comes down to the core values that you set within your company. And I didn't have my core values for like the first 5 years, right? But when I learned this, like they're everywhere. They're all over my place. Like if I give you a tour, you're gonna see them multiple times within here, and they're just not there. They're within my head, right? Like I'm constantly thinking of that day to day. And when somebody asks me, and I'm just being honest with you, somebody asks me a stupid question within my company, I walk them over to the core values, and I'm like, what core value is this? Like you have to understand, to grow a company, you have to have core values, you have to have vision, and you have to bring people in. But I'm going to push this over to you guys. Spence, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, one of the big things I think you had mentioned is the processes and workflows, right? Like the SOPs. And that's something, like, it's so hard as an entrepreneur, especially if you're doing this, like, for the first time and it's new to you, right? Extracting what's up here and putting it on paper, right? Yeah. And what we've done for our agency is we've created visual graphics, kind of like a little roadmap, like little blocks with like text and information in it. Like, all right, here's step one, right? So like if we onboard a social media client, right, and we're doing content creation, there's a lot of little steps involved into that people don't even realize. Like, oh yeah, they're just gonna come out and shoot content and then that's it. No, there's step one, step two, step three. We need ideation, we need script writing, we need approval, we need, there's so many steps along. It's like a movie, right? It's like a little mini movie that we're making for somebody. So like if you want to come correct and we want to deliver a high-end service, like there needs to be all these little steps. And if I'm going to bring somebody into that to take over this role so I can free myself up to go do other things to bring in more business, then I need to have a roadmap and SOPs and a whole workflow that somebody off the street can come in. We can coach them up a little bit, but it's so clear, cut and dry, of the steps that they follow to accomplish this specific task. So SOPs and like extracting like what's in your brain and putting it on paper is super, super, super important to, hiring and being able to delegate the tasks, because otherwise, like if you don't have that, like you can hire somebody and bring them on, but then you're always doing that one-on-one and then there's nothing for them to reference. So then they're hitting you up with questions and it's like another job just to coach this person up. So if you have your systems dialed in and you have it articulated in the right way, like almost like like the trainual, like you said, you just give it to this person like, hey, this is the roadmap. This is what you got to follow. I want you to dig into this. And then I want you to ask me questions when you have questions. And then, the first 3 months, we're going to iron out all these kinks. And then after that, you should be good to go. Right? Like that should be like how the process is. But if you don't have that, then you're going to live in this world of just freestyling. And then eventually you're going to get burnt out and you're not going to be able to coach these people up to speed. Like you're going to end up doing more work than you should be doing. And then it hurts the business, right? So like if you're an entrepreneur and you're at that point in your professional career where, you're almost kind of like the bottleneck and you're like, shit, man, like, do I have enough funds to hire? Should I hire? Like, how do I get to this next point? You have to take risks. You have to take calculated risks, right? In investment with, money and business, like whatever, you take smart calculated risks, right? You're at that cusp of like needing to hire, take that risk. Take that risk, make sure you're prepared, make sure you come correct, bring in the right person, have those SOPs down, that workflow down, so it's a lot easier to catch them up to speed and you're not, just kind of freestyling. So that's one big point that I love that you touched on, Roy.
Yeah, so there are a few resources I'd point to people that like to listen to or read books that I found to be very insightful for working with clients that are, all right, what's my next step, whether it's a solopreneur that's scaling or it's who do we add to our team next. Two resources I'd mentioned. One is called Clockwork by Mike McCallowich. And he said you need to do a time audit. Where is your time going as the leader, the owner of the company, and how much of your time, this was eye-opening for me when I did this exercise, because I was putting in, for an example, 8 hours a month into networking with a particular group. I was a chapter leader. I had been in this group for 2 years, and I hadn't got a single lead from it. Wow. Not a single one. Now, I didn't have any cost as far as money goes to attend, but it was costing me 2 hours at least per week and netting me nothing for 2 years. I'm like, well, that one's out. So the question was, where does your time go? And is that the highest and best use of your time? Does it generate revenue? Is it draining you? Even if you can do it and can do it well, is it draining your energy? That kind of ties into the delegation piece. Or if you can identify, all right, I'm really skilled at this, but it's taking me away from revenue generating activities, I need to find out how I can delegate this off. I love that you can hire fractionally nowadays. You don't have to W-2 somebody for a task. You can fractionally hire it out. Or you can fractionally hire multiple tasks. But you really want to be asking the question, where's my time going first? Because if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. Where's it going first? And then once I know where it's going, all right, are there any of those time usages that I should be delegating off to somebody else for multiple reasons, either for revenue or because it's draining you, or especially both? So that's one resource that was really eye-opening for me. The other one is a book I just got. I haven't even read it yet. I heard it again and again and again. Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Bright blue cover book of before you hire somebody, it would be good to have some structure on what you're going to be hiring them for. So I heard the recommendations enough, like I've got to get this book. So it's the next one on my reading list I'm going to tackle here. Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. I've followed his content on social media. I like how authentic it is. I like how practical it is. And when somebody recommended his book that I didn't know he had out, I'm like, I'm getting the book. I'm getting the book because the authenticity piece really matters for that. So those are two resources that I would mention when you're considering, who should we be hiring or what tasks should we be hiring. You don't necessarily have to think of it in a whole person necessarily, but you might be thinking more of tasks. What tasks should I be delegating or should we be hiring for if we don't have the people to delegate off to?
Yeah, I mean, John, that's a great point, man. Like doing that time audit. I have a very recent kind of example to give to people on that. One of the biggest things that like we do with our agency is like the caption writing for clients, right? Like how like that can be a very time consuming thing, right? Like you're writing, like let's say a client has 20 pieces of short form or long form videos, like you're having to like make sure that you have the right information, right captions for everybody, scheduling them. So like there's little shortcuts, and I'm very big on AI and utilizing Chat GPT to help with this. But what I've learned recently, and I knew about it, it's just like your mind can only like think about so much at once. So it's something that I was scrolling over. I'm like, oh shit, like I can share my Chat GPT thread. So like what I do for social media clients is like I'll have like a thread where the AI will learn over time like the tone of voice and priming that I put forth into it. So I can share this thread with my team members, and this same exact thing that I was spending 8 hours a week on right here, I already have it teed up for the next person to step in and hey, just follow suit. Look at what I did here. Like you can tap into this Chat GPT thread, and then now you can take over the captioning that I kind of teed up for you. So now those 8 hours a week, which is a lot, as an entrepreneur, like now I'm able to free up. This person can come in, now it's part of the workflow, and now I can fit my time in to bring in more business. So I love the whole time audit thing, because that plays into like the hiring and the task delegations and all of that is, really figuring out like what you're, spending way too much time on that you could pass off to somebody else.
Yeah. Do you have any questions, Roy, in the chat that I know we're about 8 minutes left or so, and I want to make sure if there are any that we're answering them. Do you see any in the chat?
No, not this second. I don't see any.
Okay.
But I can tell you, one of the things that I would say when it comes to creating SOPs, like standard operating procedures, policies, manuals, a study had been done, and I was listening to a podcast, and this was a while back ago, and I really want to bring this to people's attention. A gentleman named Todd Hartley that worked with Tony Robbins was doing a podcast with Brad Lee, and he pointed out that if you read a PDF, 5% of your brain retains that PDF. But if you create a video, 95% of your brain retains that video. So one thing that I would tell you in this age, when you're creating policies, procedures, manuals, stop writing it. Like people do not comprehend it being written. Start making videos, right? Go to the videos, because one thing is people learn so much more off of a video than they ever will by reading it. That's the one nugget that I wanted to kind of point out here. 95% compared to 5%. I mean, everything really, that gave me that waiver that said like everything needs to be done in video, right? Like when I'm reaching out to somebody, I reach out to them by video. If I'm asking for somebody to do something for me, I make a video and send it to them. Like, video is so much more powerful, and there's more details in a video, right? There's more explanation in a video. So that's one of the...
That's huge, man, because like what I did recently too, I think people will love this, is I create a lot of Loom videos, right? Loom.
Yep.
Like Loom videos where like you can kind of screen share and your pictures at the bottom, and you can like talk and stuff like that. I did that for my business partner who's not as tech savvy as me, but we're one of the programs that we're using is Monday, right? For like our client organization for like social media and like stuff like that.
Monday.com is great.
Yeah, so I had to send him a Loom video of like exactly how to navigate everything within that CRM, and that expedited the process like that. If I would have put it in a text version and just had it like right there like that, it wouldn't have done anything. The fact that I have that video that I could send to him and point everything out, that visual helps him retain the information so much better than just either verbalizing it or, you know, putting it in text. So I love that you mentioned that, and that's something that I wanted to bring up with the Loom videos.
Yep. All three of us had that on our mind of show and tell. Show them while you're doing it. Walk them through it. Screen share. I mean, we've got the technology to do it. If a company has written SOPs, oh my gosh. You know, got to modernize the training. Well, there are other excellent tools, but the Loom video is genius because make video SOPs. Here's our process, and I'll show you how I do it. You can pause, follow along. It's such an excellent. If that's the number one tip for today, for people watching about delegation, is if you have written SOPs, you need to modernize. You don't have to buy a training tool or anything. You've got tools available for free. You need to record yourself doing the process. I guarantee you it will be far more successful, because one of the major reasons why delegation fails, we tried that and it was a flop. Well, how well did you set that person up for success that you were delegating to? They can't read your mind. They've never done this before. If they can see you do it. I've fixed so many things around my house using YouTube because somebody's showing me how they're fixing it. If I bought the manual, I'd still be reading the dang thing, but because I saw somebody walking me through it, I fixed so many things. It's that same way for your business. If you're not video documenting, not showing and telling, you're way behind. And like Roy said, how much are they actually retaining of that? It's no wonder that delegation is a big challenge if you aren't using a smart, modern, proven process. Yep.
Yeah, and that's, again, I mean, I'll bring it back. We just talked about this, but I'm going to say it again, is when I go to hire somebody, right, I literally make them make videos before I interview them, because, again, like, I want everybody in my company to be able to make videos, and that's not everybody's personality, and some people don't want to be on camera. But in this day and age, I need to make sure that anybody within my company, like, we live in a social media world. We live, and especially if you're trying to get bigger in business, right? You're trying to grow. Now, maybe my accountant doesn't need to be that, but the other people within my organization, they need to be okay with being on camera. Like, I want to show our team. I want to show leadership. I want to show teamwork. I want the people outside of our company, again, like, you know, showing what we are. I mean, Spence can talk about this. He's got this crazy cyber truck all wrapped and stuff. I mean, it's a billboard, and people that, you know, he has, like, people that work with his organization, like team members, they're around this thing, and people come up and talk. You got to be okay to be on camera. Right. So I think that's a big part of the hiring process and the documentation process. And it's just like you said, I mean, if you're going to be making videos, you got to make sure everybody in your company can make videos. Right. So that's a part of hiring them now, is do they have a bubbly personality? And I'm sorry if they don't, but, like, we really need that now within the organization. And you got to make sure they buy into the vision of the company. So it's the same thing, like, they buy into the vision of what you're doing. But we're running out of time here, so I'm gonna kick it off. I thank you for listening today. I'm gonna move it on to Spencer and John to say goodbye. Again, we're gonna be doing this every single week, Fridays at noon. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions at all. Please feel free to know that we're going to post this every single week, and to join every single week with any and all questions you have. And we'll be more than happy to answer them for you. Go ahead, and Spencer, and then John.
Yeah, no, just to kind of wrap it up, read the book, The Power of Vulnerability by Brene Brown. Highly recommend. Be authentic. create SOPs and processes, extract the stuff from your brain, put it on paper, more so a visual. Loom videos are amazing for helping to do that and to coach people up.
Yeah. If this content resonates with you, connect with us, message us, reach out to us on LinkedIn's my favorite platform, and I know Spencer's active on it, Roy sure is too. So reach out to us, engage with us there. We'd love to have you. Or this is something we're going to be regularly doing because we want to share ideas and best practices and what's been helpful for us. We know that's going to be helpful for people tuning in. And thanks for your time and your attention today of tuning in. If you happen to see the replay, great. However you engage with this material, we're grateful that you're investing your time with us, and we look forward to the next conversation with you.
And show some love. Double tap.
Thanks,
Yes.
everybody.